Hey guys, this week I'm going to be continuing the assembly on my fruit. Alright guys, this week it's all about reassembling bits and pieces on the front end of the car. Some of you have asked about the wiring loom, and because I'm lazy and I'm fixed on a budget, at this stage I'm planning on still reinstalling the factory loom and testing to see what works and what doesn't and replace as I go. That may be a very stupid thing to do because it's old and there's probably issues. It's really easy pulling a car apart, but putting it all back where it came from, that's going to be the challenge. Alright, this is already giving me a headache, and I've barely started. Yeah, I just keep trying to untangle this big, disgusting, tangled mess and work out where everything goes. Got a bunch of bits and pieces that I have to paint black. I've got the steering boss, the wiper switch, the brackets that hold on the fuel tank, and I've also got the gauges, and the gauges, that doesn't sound too good. I might have to look at this particular one a little bit more in depth, but the gauges, they've got a little bit of rust and pitting you can see around here that aren't perfect, but I'll give them a light sand and mask them up and paint them with the black, and I think they should be pretty good. So the faces and stuff look alright to me. I don't have unlimited money to spend on this car, and if they work, they're going back in. If I find at a later date that they don't work, that's when I worry about replacing them. Alright, everything's prepped up, masked up, so quick coat of black and they should look $1 million. While I'm waiting for the paint to dry up so I can install the gauges, I thought I would tackle the mounting points for these front guards. Up to this stage, they've been mounted only by self-tapping screws, which I don't like self-tapping screws straight into fiberglass. I don't think it's a very good, secure way of holding the guards. They can quite easily pull through. So what I'm going to try, which I haven't used before on fiberglass, is I'm going to use some rib nuts. For those of you that don't know what a rib nut is, basically it's just like your regular pop rivet, but this has a thread in it, so it will clamp onto the piece and have a nice fitting there that I can then use a proper, I think in this case it's an M6 bolt in it, and it should make a much neater finished product. Alright, first up we'll do a trial run. I've got a scrap piece of fiberglass, so I just want to see how well it sits in here, whether it cracks the fiberglass, and it's better to try it on a scrap piece than it is to try it straight into the bars. And that is what a finished riblet looks like. So it crimps itself onto the back and it's held nice and securely into the piece of fiberglass. And before I get too far ahead of myself, let's retrial fit it just with 3 of the rib nuts in there, just to make sure it all is working the way it should. I'm very happy with that, so time to pull it out and do all of them. Alright, let's unmask these and see how much overspray I got over everything. Alright, right, and then before I go too far on this gauge, I need to pull it apart and see what is rattling around in there. So there's the culprit. Just a little globe. It's obviously come free and fallen in, so that, thankfully, was an easy fix. All right, now for the fun bit and putting the gauges back in. Okay, all the gauges are in, and I actually took really detailed pictures on my phone when I disassembled the gauges, and it made it very easy to put it all back together again. It was a bird's nest of wiring back there, and still is, but everything was well labelled, so it made it quite straightforward to plug it all back up again, so hopefully it works. Although I've never driven the car, so I didn't know if they worked before I pulled them out, so we'll just have to see. Alright, a lot of this stuff is starting to look pretty good. Some of these switches and stuff are a bit dirty, so I think it's time to get in there and give them a bit of a scrub. As for this keyhole surround, they're not that expensive to buy a new part, but I think I can probably salvage this one, maybe with a bit of wet and dry sandpaper. I have an assistant. Now, cats on the roof. It's really not. You're not helping. I'm going to give this a bit of wet and dry sanding and see if we can bring it up again. Alright, that wasn't quite as effective as I hoped. It's still quite dull by sanding this up, but I'm going to try some polish on it now and see if the polish will basically be a bit of a finer cut and buff it up a bit. Alright, as you may have already guessed, this week's episode is really just going backwards and forwards, and as I'm working through, I'm sort of discovering, okay, no, this has to go in before that, so it's sort of a bit thrown together, but I realise I've got to get in the handbrake, and while I'm there, I've got to do the pedals as well, and the handbrake is looking a little bit dirty and tired. Nothing wrong with it. It looks like it functions okay. It just needs a bit of a tidy up and a paint, so we'll clean this up and paint this. And not looking as nice is this pedal box. Now this is looking really nasty. It's got lots of surface rust and junk and crap from the years of not being sealed properly, sitting outside, and all the water pooling around it. So I need to see if I can clean this up and get it looking a bit nicer before I put it back in the car. At this stage, I'm still thinking I'm going to persevere with this pedal box. I may get a race pedal box further in the future with dual master cylinders, but for the time being at least, I have this now. I can put this in the car and I can continue to tweak the car later on once it's together. I just want to get the thing going and I can improve it down the track. Now I'll hit all these bits with some rust converter and let them sit, let the rust converter do its job, and then I can paint them up. These pedal parts, because of how rusty they were, I'm going to spray them with a galvanized gloss black. I'm learning, but slowly. At least this time I remember to put gloves on. So for a change, I only have a little tiny bit of paint on my finger. Alright, so pedal assembly is all painted up. I'll just use a bit of grease and put this stuff all back together again. Stuffing around trying to get this handbrake back in, trying to fit the pins and everything up because it's still connected in the back. There's so much more work than I wanted it to be. But moving right along, let's see if we can get these pedals in. Alright, that was a lot of mucking around. It's really tiring, bending over and working upside down in here. But the pedal's mostly in, the handbrake's in. I think it's time for a break.
I guess it must be time for fun facts with Mrs. Jeff. Hi guys! Did you know that before Porsche cars were world renowned for racing, Ferdinand Porsche actually designed one of the most successful race cars of the 20s and 30s for Mercedes-Benz. It was the Mercedes-Benz SSK. Now, this car was fitted with a supercharged 7-litre straight 6 engine and it had around 200 to 300 horsepower. This car could obtain a top speed of about 190k an hour, making it the fastest car of its day.
Alright guys, that's it for another week. It feels like I didn't really get much done this week. I did lots of little bits and pieces which are all working towards the final goal of getting this car going, but it just doesn't feel like I'm getting too far. But it's getting there. So,
Little by little.
exactly, little by little. We have gauges, we have the handbrake, we have some pedals, we have some of the wiring done. That's it for this week. If you're enjoying the videos, please like and subscribe and share the videos. And you can also check out my recent vlog updates that I've been doing on my building my house as well. Alright, see you guys.